Okay, let's see how it goes.
What's this little bulb over there? All right, leave it there. That's something I got taped on. I don't want it to blow up.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your name?
Raymond Gargac,
How old are you?
82.
Okay. I guess we'll just start. What was the blizzard of 1978?
What was it?
What was it?
It was. It was a snowstorm.
But I mean, what? I mean, did you have any warning of it?
We had a little warning in the morning at 6:30. It started to sleet and rain and freeze, so we had ice on the ground and on the snow before the blizzard came. We did have snow on the ground, but then by 9 o'clock, we had a real blizzard. It came in heavy snow, blowing, couldn't see out the windows. It blew in every crack and crevice.
Jeez.
The kids were all getting up, ready to go to school. Told them I don't think so. Girls want to wash their hair. We didn't have no electricity. Right after it started, by 9:30, 10 o'clock, we didn't have any electricity. That lasted about 5 days. The girls were going to wash their hair. That got stopped. To get water, so as we looked around, we were kind of lucky. My one son was just home from the army, and he'd just come home from Alaska, so he had all kind of hoods and gloves and boots and for himself. And he had a four-wheeler out in the yard. It wasn't going anywhere. That's within an hour and a half, 2 hours, you couldn't even move that four-wheeler. And by the end of the day, I would say 7, 8 hours, 9 hours, the snow was up over top of the swing set, and swing sets
gosh.
are pretty high. And it was just drifting and rolling and blowing, and we tried to open the front door, which faced south. And as we opened the door, there was something blowing around out there on the porch, and here was a blue jay, got caught in the rain, and he had his head frozen right between his legs, so he's rolling like a little ball. So we went out there, my son Mike, we went out there and we found him in a corner where he was kind of jammed in there, frozen up. Brought him in the house and we thawed him out. 2 days later we let him go. But it was bad. You couldn't see. If you would go from our house to the garage, which was about 50 feet, you couldn't see the garage. And we had people out there, farmers that tried to get to their barns, and they could not get to their barns. They couldn't find the barn.
Okay.
So then by noon, my family wanted me to start the generator, and it was almost impossible to get it out. But I mean, we can do things that other people couldn't. We could have got it out, and I told them, as long as the refrigerator's going and we got water, when we'd get done using up the water that's in the supply tank, we brought in snow, and we had a wood burner. So we melted snow on a wood burner. We had heat. We had candles. We had a couple camping lights. So we were not in bad shape. We had battery-operated radios, so we knew how to handle that stuff. And then being that Mike was home from the military, he was trained for all this stuff. So we had no problems. People down the way had problems, so we would go out and help the best we could. By 7 o'clock that evening, there was a family calling for the National Guard. They had to call in for the National Guard to come and rescue them because they had 2 small kids. Heat was down. The house was down to like between 28 and 30 degrees in the house. And my Mike and my other son was a little bit younger. We put ropes from each one of us, and we went out there at night, 7 o'clock at night, and we walked down the road. The snow was like 7 feet deep. And as you would walk, you would find if it had a void, you fell right down into your waist. Then we got out, we got up to the first road where they lived, which was a quarter of a mile. And when we got on that road was nothing but ice, no snow, because it went from north to south. So we rescued them people and moved them over into a house next door that had a fireplace, and of course there was another gentleman out there that we knew he was old, and he didn't want to be rescued, so we were told that he was kind of nasty, and he might even shoot us. So Mike, being military, he snuck up to the window and saw that he had candles and stuff in there, so he was and dressed up. He wasn't going to freeze. He would probably hold out till morning. So we left him alone. I mean, that was kind of a dangerous thing what we were doing, but and of course I knew his son. So then somehow 2 days later, next day, 2 days later, a phone was operating and we got a call to his son. We were the first ones to get down 4 miles down the road to where the grocery stores were, and we brought milk and supply, and we walked. I mean, you didn't ride nowhere. Snowmobiles buzzing all around. I mean, that was the only transportation. So, but we survived. It was like 5 days. I didn't start the generator up till about the sixth day. I started generator up to get the water pump well pumped up and get the refrigerator going. But as far as heat, no problem. Lights, no problem. Eating, no problem. We had plenty of food. What else?
Okay, so who was at home when all this happened?
Well, I was home. My wife was home. How many kids did we have home?
Probably 10.
We got 13 kids. I better tell you that. There was 10 of them at home. Couple had old enough to move out when you got that many.
9 or 10.
The oldest one we had was Mike, the home that came home from Alaska at that time, which was kind of nice. So.
Okay, so I mean, since there were all these kids home, what were they doing since they couldn't go to school? What were they doing for 5 days in the house?
Driving us nuts. Nope, we had them under control. Soon as they could get out, we went out and cleared snow away from the doorways, Mike and I. And as soon as they get out, they went out and see what was out there. They took some pictures, and most of them were girls. The other boys were younger because we had 6 girls in a row. So the older ones were girls, and they went out. We did what we had to do. I mean, they brought in snow to melt on the stove to flush the toilets. I mean, I had big kettles. We put them on the wood burner, and you get a big kettle. You get a 20-quart or 25-quart kettle, put it full of snow. By the time it melts down, you only got 2 inches or a couple gallons of water out of it. But we had no problem. We had food and stuff to eat. I mean, it was no problem. And the only time I'd run the generator is when we needed to keep the refrigerator going and the well. Other than that, we didn't run the generator because we had candles and stuff till electric was 5 days, so that's no big deal for people that know how to do that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I read a book.
So you were self-employed. So how did that affect? I mean, you couldn't go out for 5 days.
I was on a vacation.
I mean, were you working on a job at the time and just left it, or?
That I don't remember if I had a job going or not, which it's possible that I did, but I had to wait probably 7, 8, 9 days to get to it, which was no big deal. Mm-hmm. I mean, it would have probably been in a private house, and I probably couldn't have worked there anyhow if I could have got there, but that I don't remember.
So, I mean, you were just keeping busy then at the house?
Well, we were having fun. We went out where that swing set was. The snow was up over top of it, and that's probably 7 feet, and the snow was solid. So we went in there with the kids, and we dug it out, and we made a big igloo inside of that, and we put a stovepipe up in there, and we built a fire right into it till it started to melt. I mean, you can only build so much of a fire.
Yeah.
That was right in the backyard. But we had fun. I mean, it didn't bother us.
I mean, were people freaking out or scared?
Well, there was some of them down the way that they should all knew what survival is in the country. Some did, some didn't. And then after a while, when you could get, well, you couldn't get on the roads. You couldn't drive. They ain't going to clean our road out. I mean, it's not a main thoroughfare, so you couldn't drive anywhere. It was 7, 8 days or 6 days before they got anything cleaned out. We shoveled our driveway out by hand. That's how you keep busy. We clean the shovel it out so that when that 4-wheeler could get on the road, we'd go.
Mm-hmm.
But you had the road out in front had snow 7 feet deep. So by the time the snow plows did their main roads to keep supplies moving, it was 7, 8, 10 days before they got to where we were at. We didn't go no. Where are you going to go? We walked 4 miles down to the grocery store and got stuff for some of the people that needed along the way. But but we had water, we had food, we had a freezer. So we had no problem. The girls had a problem. They want to get their hair washed and their makeup on.
Even though they weren't going anywhere?
Yeah, going nowhere. But it was a good experience for them. They learned that you better pay attention to what's going on. We had a radio. We kept in touch with a lot of people that were asking for help, but I had no snowmobile or nothing. In that area, with I would say a couple mile away, a little Volkswagen got stranded, and it couldn't get off of the road. And the snow plow, that was probably 2 or 3 miles away from us, a snow plow coming, didn't know it was in the snow jar, and it put it out in the field, one of them little bugs. But there was cars that were stranded that they were smart enough to get into shelter where somebody had a house with a candle going. I mean, that was your signal. Anybody that had a candle, you had lights. We had a little propane stove. It's still in the garage that you hooked up in a lantern. But say you didn't have no. We could have turned television on. I wouldn't let them. all the generator was for keep water well going in your freezers, and we didn't run it constant. Just pump it up, shut it off, and that was it. And of course, then later on in the weeks, when everything started melting, you got your flow of water. You got to make sure you don't have floods. And we had no problem with that because I got pumps. We still got everything to keep it going. But we didn't have no problem, did we, Grandma?
No, I actually read a book the whole time, which I don't usually do.
What'd you write?
I read a book.
I thought you wrote one.
Read a book.
We had fun. Us guys that went out, Marty, he was he was with us. He wasn't where. How old would Marty been in '78?
6,
See,
15,
him
15.
and Marty and Mike and I went out, and every time we went out, the first 4 or 5 days when it was still blowing, we each had a rope from here to here to him. Sometimes you didn't only see Marty's head when he'd sink down the hole. You gotta go pull him out.
I mean, was that the first time you guys ever did anything like that?
Yeah,
Like-
first time we had anything that bad. We had water floods already in '69 back in there, but I mean this here wasn't as bad as the water. Water you can't control. This here you can control. It ain't going nowhere.
So, I mean, it's not like you had prior knowledge of how to do this, how to survive, and...
Well, we've done that stuff before. We had fire drills and stuff like that. I mean, if something go wrong with the pump and they get up in the morning in the basement and they walk in water, why, they knew, get your butt upstairs and tell him he's in bed or wherever. But you plan for that stuff.
Yep.
You live in the country, that's what you have to do. But like I say, we thought it was pretty neat, actually, Marty and Mike and I, 'cause that's like camping out in the snow. Because you had gloves on, and the gloves we had, I mean, they didn't get soaked from the snow, because that's the kind you have on. And the hoods and everything, we had all that stuff. Mike used to send stuff home. I got a coat in the garage yet that I wear out here.
All right. Sounds good. That's it.
Covered.
Yep.